You're watching Extras from the Extension on Eagle Community Television.
Hello, I'm Stacy Campbell with K-State Research and Extension of Ellis County. Well, as the year is winding down, in agriculture that means a lot of different things, but one of the things that tenants and landowners may need to do or consider is to renegotiate or rework their leases on their farmland or pasture land, whether they're in a written lease or an oral lease. K-State Research and Extension has some information to help folks with that. One of the first things that I kind of point folks to is we've got just kind of a general publication here about Kansas agricultural lease law. It does have just general information in it only. You don't want to use it as a substitute for legal counsel. It's not a complete analysis of all of the laws or case decisions, but it's a good little kind of overview of some of the main things about leasing land here, agriculture land here in Kansas. Also, it's even got kind of a sample letter if you need to terminate a lease on how to go about that. And talking about renegotiating your lease, whether it's a written or oral lease, let's talk about the oral leases. They're very legal here in Kansas. You know, there's been many people that have been in oral leases for years, but if you did want to consider working on a written lease, we've got some different documents available that I'll talk about here in a minute that you could use. If the lease is oral, there are certain provisions in the Kansas statutes that automatically become part of the lease. So in other words, if there's ever any disputes or anything, if it's just an oral lease, then kind of the Kansas statutes go into effect on determining some different things. An oral lease or agreement may be legally enforceable, but it is much more desirable to spell out the agreements in details in writing into a written lease, which will help resolve disputes that might arise between the parties because they can refer to the written instrument to review their agreement as to going back and trying to remember what was said. A written lease does not have to be a detailed contract. It can be a simple memorandum or note concerning the lease. That may be sufficient if both parties sign it. It may be as simple as just, spelling out the legal description of the land, the beginning and ending period of the lease, and when payments are due. So a written lease does not have to be detailed. If you do need to rework your written lease or considering doing one, there are some nice little elements of a good lease that are listed in the back of this publication. There's 37 little bullet points that can maybe help you as you work through renegotiating or maybe working up a written lease. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we've got some other leasing arrangements or agreements that are already drawn up here that Extension has done. There's one for crop share farm leasing, one for pasture leasing, and also just one for cash farm leases of crop ground. These have got quite a few different things listed in here that you can work up into your lease. I tell people if they use this, they can actually cross some things out if they don't want it in their lease. They can even pencil some things in. There's a place here in the back where both parties can sign it, and a notary can even notarize it. So we have these leasing arrangement papers available for folks to use if they're wanting to work up a written lease or even review their written lease and see if they've maybe included everything that they should. You can also just use this to kind of take bits and pieces out of to work up your own lease as well. And like I say, this is a good little publication here that's got some general overviews of Kansas lease law and some nice little bullet points in the back of things to consider on working up a good lease. Mentioning ag law and leases, we've got a program coming up here in Hayes on Tuesday, December the 7th. It's called an Ag Law and Lease Workshop. We've got two different attorneys coming out to present information on this. The first attorney is Forrest Bueller. He's actually on campus at K-State. He works in the Kansas Agricultural Mediation Service. He works throughout the state with agriculture producers. And he's going to be talking about some of the lease laws here in Kansas, and more specifically about fencing laws to help landowners and tenants kind of work through some of the fencing issues that might arise from time to time. And then also another attorney, he's a Central Kansas native, but he's out in Denver. His name is Nathan Gilbert. He's going to be coming out and talking more specifically about recreational leases. I believe he kind of specializes in recreational and hunting type leases, and he's going to be talking about some of the potential ins and outs of those type of leases, things to consider. And once again, that program, it's totally free to the public. Anyone's invited. It's going to be here in Hayes on Tuesday, December 7th from 1 to 3:30 at our office meeting room at 601 Main. We do appreciate if you'd give us an RSVP by the 5th, on December the 5th. So we'll just kind of have an idea of how to set up the room, how many are coming for this Ag Law and Lease Workshop. Well, I think we're out of time now, and I've covered everything I need to about agricultural leases. If you do need some more information, you can contact your local extension office for these resources. Also, you can go on to the website at Manhattan. The Ag Economics Department has this information on www.agmanager.info for this information, or you can stop by your local extension office. This has been Stacy Campbell with K-State Research and Extension of Ellis County with Eagle Community Television.
You're watching Extras from the Extension on Eagle Community Television.